Over 1.22 million lives lost. Millions more wounded. For every inch of Ukrainian soil that Russia captures, it pays in blood. Yet Vladimir Putin continues to throw men and material into the grinder, hoping sheer attrition will overwhelm Ukraine. But 2026 promises to be different. Ukraine is no longer content to simply defend. It is preparing to go on the offensive, and when it does, the consequences for Russia could be catastrophic. The Ukrainian armed forces, under Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky, have undergone a transformation. Core reforms have turned previously temporary operational units into permanent, highly organized brigades with streamlined command structures and precise operational control. Decisions that once took hours can now be executed in minutes, giving Ukraine the speed and flexibility it needs to strike decisively and respond instantly to Russian movements. This is a military machine built for both defense and offense, capable of concentrating firepower at the right place and time, while maintaining the agility to adapt to changing circumstances on the battlefield. The results of this restructuring are already evident. While many analysts focused on large-scale engagements, the Ukrainian military quietly launched a series of targeted counterattacks in the latter half of 2025. In the Donetsk Oblast, particularly in and around the city of Pokrovsk, Russian forces attempted to encircle Ukrainian positions, capturing nearby settlements and pushing into the city itself. But Ukraine did not simply hold. Ukrainian forces executed precision strikes that slowed and disrupted the Russian advance, preventing the capture of critical urban strongholds. Pokrovsk remained in Ukrainian hands, proving that smaller, well-coordinated operations could inflict disproportionate damage on the enemy and set the stage for larger offensives. Between late August and October 2025, Ukrainian counterattacks liberated over 430 square kilometers north of Pokrovsk, inflicting more than 13,000 Russian casualties. These operations demonstrated that Ukraine had learned the lessons of attritional warfare and was ready to transition from reactive defense to proactive offense. Ukraine's shift is based on two main factors. First, the country is militarily stronger than ever. Its forces are better trained, better organized, and better equipped to execute complex maneuvers. Core reforms have removed inefficiencies in the command structure, allowing permanent corps commanders to control multiple brigades directly, ensuring coordinated strikes, rapid reinforcement, and precise execution of operations. Second, Russia is weaker than ever before. Casualty rates are staggering, estimated between 20,000 and 30,000 killed per month. Recruitment struggles prevent the Kremlin from replacing these losses, leaving Russian forces overstretched and vulnerable. The Russian economy is simultaneously under severe strain. Ukraine's long-range strikes on energy infrastructure, combined with Western sanctions, have reduced oil and gas revenue by billions, leaving Moscow unable to properly fund or equip its military. Soldiers lack proper training and equipment, morale is low, and the operational capacity of Russian forces is deteriorating steadily. In this context, Ukraine's planned offensives for 2026 are not mere retaliation. They are the logical evolution of a strategic defensive posture into a combined arms, precision-focused operation. The Ukrainian military has internalized the lessons of past operations, including the failed summer counteroffensive of 2023, which faltered due to overextension. That offensive spanned an 80-kilometer front and divided forces across multiple axes, leaving units too thinly spread to achieve decisive results. In contrast, 2026 operations will focus on concentrated, rapid strikes against well-identified weak points, followed by swift consolidation to maintain defensive integrity. Ukraine will hit hard, fortify, and then pivot to the next objective, maintaining operational momentum while avoiding the pitfalls of overextension. This approach is already being tested on a smaller scale. Counterattacks in the Pokrovsk and Dobropilya sectors during the latter half of 2025 have provided Ukraine with a template for how to regain territory while simultaneously inflicting heavy losses on the enemy. Each strike is deliberate, calculated, and designed to maximize disruption while minimizing Ukrainian exposure. The combination of a fortified defense and agile offense has proven effective, demonstrating that Ukraine can regain ground without risking another overextended counteroffensive. Every move is part of a larger operational puzzle aimed at forcing Russia into untenable positions. Russia's situation is dire. The Kremlin had hoped Ukraine would remain defensive, buying time for attritional strategies to wear down Ukrainian forces. Instead, Ukraine's deliberate counterattacks, combined with high Russian casualty rates and faltering recruitment, have placed Moscow in a position of strategic vulnerability. Russia's forces are increasingly unable to replace losses or maintain operational cohesion. Even ambitious plans, such as forming 11 new divisions in 2026, are likely to fall short due to manpower shortages. While Ukrainian forces continue to gain operational initiative, the cumulative effect is a Russian military that is stretched thin, overextended, and ill-prepared for the fast, decisive strikes Ukraine is poised to execute. Ukraine's offensive strategy also incorporates technological advantages. Middle-strike drones and long-range artillery allow Ukrainian forces to strike deep into Russian-held territory, targeting supply lines, command centers, and logistical hubs. These operations disrupt Russian operations, creating chaos in the rear and undermining morale, while the front lines are engaged in coordinated, decisive maneuvers. Every strike is designed to weaken Russia's ability to respond and create opportunities for territorial reclamation. In 2026, Ukraine's operations will be faster, smarter, and more lethal than ever before. The military's improved command structure ensures that decisions are made swiftly, while newly trained and restructured units can execute complex operations with precision. Unlike previous offensives, these actions will not allow Russia time to predict or prepare for them. Ukraine will exploit weaknesses, consolidate gains, and maintain the initiative at every stage. The focus is on efficiency and effectiveness, using superior strategy and planning to overcome Russian numerical and material advantages. Putin's deadline for taking the Donbass by April 2026 is unrealistic. Cities like Pokrovsk, Slavyansk, and Kramatorsk remain fortified, supported by belts of Ukrainian defenses built over years. Russia's attempts to push through these areas will be met with well-planned Ukrainian counterattacks designed to inflict maximum losses while regaining critical ground. Ukraine's military reforms, technological capabilities, and operational experience all combine to ensure that 2026 could mark a decisive year in the conflict, reversing Russia's gains and putting Ukrainian forces firmly on the offensive. The stage is set. Ukraine has learned from the past, restructured its forces, exploited Russian weaknesses, and integrated technology into its battlefield strategy. 2026 will not be a year of static defense. It will be a year of calculated, high-impact offensives. Russia's army, weakened by casualties, poor recruitment, and logistical strain, may not survive the coming storm. Ukraine is ready, and the consequences for Moscow could be devastating. The war is no longer just about holding the line. It's about reclaiming territory, dictating the pace of operations, and striking decisively where the enemy is most vulnerable. The question now is simple. When Ukraine goes on the offensive, what will remain of Russia's strategy to stop it? The war in Ukraine has entered a new phase, one defined not by static defense but by strategic calculation, precision strikes, and the careful orchestration of timing and terrain. By the end of 2025, Russia had expended vast resources, men, and material for gains that were minimal compared to the human cost. Over 1 million casualties, thousands of armored vehicles destroyed, supply lines stretched to the breaking point. Yet Vladimir Putin's forces continued to push forward, believing that sheer attrition could eventually overwhelm Ukrainian defenses. But Ukraine has been watching, learning, and preparing. And now, in 2026, the Ukrainian armed forces are ready to seize the operational initiative. Oleksandr Syrsky, Ukraine's commander-in-chief, has made it clear: a victory cannot be won through defense alone. The army has been restructured, refined, and professionalized in a way that allows it to act decisively, quickly, and with unprecedented precision. Permanent corps commanders now control multiple brigades under a streamlined command system, replacing the temporary rotational structures that slowed decision-making in earlier years. Orders are executed faster, forces are deployed with surgical precision, and coordination is seamless across multiple fronts. What this creates is not just a defensive line, but a flexible, lethal mechanism capable of converting intelligence into action almost instantly. Ukraine's strategy for 2026 is built on the lessons of the past. The failed summer counteroffensive of 2023 highlighted the danger of overextension, of spreading forces too thin, and of allowing the enemy to anticipate movements months in advance. In contrast, the latter half of 2025 demonstrated a new approach. Small, coordinated counterattacks, particularly around Pokrovsk and Dobropilya in the Donetsk Oblast, allowed Ukraine to reclaim territory, disrupt Russian advances, and inflict significant losses without overcommitting. These operations liberated hundreds of square kilometers and caused over 13,000 Russian casualties, revealing the power of precision strikes, adaptive planning, and the careful timing of engagements. Ukraine's forces did not rush. They calculated, waited for the moment when vulnerabilities were maximized, and struck with devastating efficiency. Russia, however, faces a series of compounding crises. Casualty rates remain astronomical, estimated between 20,000 and 30,000 soldiers killed each month, and recruitment has begun to falter. In 2025, Russia attempted to replenish its ranks with over 400,000 new recruits, yet losses outpaced these numbers, leaving the military stretched dangerously thin. The Kremlin is forced to rotate undertrained soldiers into combat, weakening cohesion, reducing effectiveness, and making them increasingly vulnerable to Ukrainian tactics. Meanwhile, Ukraine's counterattacks and intelligence-driven operations exploit these weaknesses at every opportunity. Russia is being bled not only through combat losses but through the erosion of operational capacity, logistics, and morale. Economic pressure compounds Russia's military vulnerabilities. Ukrainian long-range strikes on energy infrastructure, combined with international sanctions, have drastically reduced oil and gas revenue, stripping Moscow of the funds needed to modernize equipment, sustain frontline operations, and maintain morale among troops. Estimates suggest losses of over $30 billion in 2025 alone due to strikes and sanctions. This financial degradation limits Russia's ability to respond to Ukrainian offensives and creates vulnerabilities in its rear lines that Ukraine can exploit. The Kremlin's military-industrial complex is under strain, and with dwindling resources, soldiers face shortages of equipment, training, and reinforcements. Ukraine's renewed strategy relies on combining defense and offense in a dynamic, integrated approach. Strategic defensive positions are maintained, but small, high-impact offensive operations will be launched at multiple points to disrupt Russian formations, seize weakly held positions, and reclaim key territories. Each operation is timed and targeted, designed to amplify Russian weaknesses rather than merely hold ground. Unlike previous campaigns, these offensives are not announced months in advance. The enemy will have no time to prepare or reinforce, ensuring that momentum remains firmly in Ukraine's hands. Coordination between intelligence, artillery, and mobile infantry units allows for rapid execution, enabling Ukraine to hit hard, consolidate gains, and move on before Russia can respond. The lessons learned from prior engagements, including the failed 2023 counteroffensive, are central to Ukraine's operational planning. Overextension, a primary failure in previous campaigns, will not occur again. Operations will be concentrated, decisive, and followed by immediate consolidation. Smaller counterattacks in the latter half of 2025 acted as both practice and testing grounds, providing data on Russian vulnerabilities, response patterns, and command delays. Ukraine's ability to combine precision strikes with strategic foresight ensures that every engagement in 2026 will maximize results while minimizing risk. Russia's forces are further hampered by unrealistic expectations. Putin has set ambitious deadlines for territorial gains in the Donbass, yet the logistical and operational capacity of Russian troops is insufficient to achieve these objectives. Cities like Pokrovsk, Slavyansk, and Kramatorsk remain fortified, supported by decades of defensive planning and ongoing Ukrainian reinforcement. Even if Russian forces attempt direct assaults, Ukraine's tactical approach ensures that they will face concentrated, highly effective counterattacks. Every overextended advance invites destruction, and 2026 will see Russian troops paying dearly for such miscalculations. Technological advances also play a critical role in Ukraine's 2026 strategy. The deployment of middle-strike drones and long-range artillery enables Ukrainian forces to strike deep behind Russian lines, targeting supply depots, command centers, and infrastructure critical to sustaining frontline operations. These strikes create chaos, disrupt logistics, and undermine morale, all while Ukrainian units maintain operational control over contested territories. By attacking where the enemy feels secure, Ukraine multiplies the effects of every operation, turning small tactical gains into strategic leverage. The combination of restructured command, experienced leadership, operational agility, and technological superiority positions Ukraine to dominate in 2026. Defensive positions are no longer passive. They serve as springboards for rapid, high-impact offensive actions. Russian forces are overstretched, under-resourced, and unprepared for the speed and precision of Ukraine's upcoming operations. Attritional strategies that once favored Moscow now work against it, as Ukraine exploits weaknesses, inflicts casualties, and undermines supply and command networks. 2026 will be a year of momentum. Ukraine will no longer wait to respond. It will dictate the pace of conflict, striking where the enemy is weakest, consolidating quickly, and maintaining operational initiative across multiple fronts. Russia's losses, both human and material, will continue to mount, and the combination of economic strain, recruitment shortfalls, and battlefield defeats will leave Moscow in a position of unprecedented vulnerability. Ukraine's strategy demonstrates that modern warfare is no longer about overwhelming force alone. It is about timing, precision, adaptability, and exploiting the vulnerabilities of an overextended opponent. The question is no longer whether Ukraine can defend its territory. It is whether Russia can survive the coming storm. Ukraine has prepared, learned, and adapted. Every lesson from 2025 has been integrated into the plan for 2026. Every weakness in Russian operations has been mapped, every opportunity analyzed. The stage is set for a year in which Ukraine moves from defensive resilience to operational dominance, and the consequences for Russia could be irreversible. The war has changed, and Ukraine is ready to show the world just how decisive strategy, timing, and precision can be in modern warfare. The battlefield in Ukraine is evolving faster than many predicted. By 2026, the war has entered a stage where timing, precision, and operational foresight determine outcomes far more than sheer numbers or firepower. Russia, despite its continued offensives, finds itself increasingly stretched, facing not only staggering casualties, but also a system struggling to replenish its ranks. Ukraine, on the other hand, has been refining its strategy, turning past setbacks into lessons, and preparing to dictate the pace of conflict in a way that could redefine the war entirely. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Oleksandr Syrsky, has emphasized a central truth of modern warfare. A purely defensive posture cannot achieve victory. For years, Ukraine's forces relied on strong defensive lines, fortifications, and tactical patience to slow Russian advances. This strategy has been effective in blunting Moscow's ambitions, yet it also revealed a limitation. Defense alone allows the enemy to dictate terms. In 2026, Ukraine intends to shift the dynamic entirely, pairing its well-honed defensive positions with offensive operations designed to seize initiative, disrupt Russian plans, and inflict disproportionate damage with precision strikes. The foundation for this strategy lies in the restructuring of Ukraine's armed forces. Core reforms have transformed temporary, ad hoc command structures into permanent, professional organizations. Each corps commander now has authority over multiple brigades, enabling rapid decision-making and coordinated operations across wide fronts. This is not just organizational efficiency, it is the difference between reactive units and proactive, adaptive forces capable of exploiting fleeting vulnerabilities in Russian deployments. Soldiers and commanders can now operate with clarity and confidence, knowing that orders are decisive and support is immediate. Ukraine's approach in 2026 is informed by the lessons of 2023 and 2025. The failed counteroffensive of summer 2023 highlighted the dangers of overextension, poor coordination, and predictable planning. Forces were spread too thin across multiple axes, leaving them vulnerable to concentrated Russian firepower. By contrast, the second half of 2025 demonstrated a new operational philosophy: limited, high-impact counterattacks designed to weaken Russian positions, reclaim territory incrementally, and prepare for larger, sustained operations. In Dobrapilya and Pokrovsk, these strikes liberated hundreds of square kilometers and inflicted over 13,000 casualties on Russian forces, proving the effectiveness of calculated, scalable offensives. Russia's military position, meanwhile, is deteriorating rapidly. Casualty rates remain catastrophic, with estimates ranging from 20,000 to 35,000 soldiers killed monthly. Recruitment has failed to keep pace, leaving the front lines understrength and overstretched. By late 2025, the Kremlin's attempts to replenish forces with over 400,000 recruits had barely offset losses, leaving a shortfall that continues to widen. Undertrained soldiers, poor coordination, and logistical bottlenecks now define Russian operations, creating vulnerabilities that Ukraine is uniquely positioned to exploit. Each Russian advance becomes a potential trap, each supply line a target for disruption. Economic pressures exacerbate Moscow's problems. Ukrainian long-range strikes against energy infrastructure, coupled with Western sanctions, have severely curtailed Russian revenue. In 2025 alone, Ukrainian attacks and sanctions cost Russia an estimated $30 billion in oil and gas income. This decline undermines military modernization, reduces equipment quality, and limits the Kremlin's ability to fund reinforcements. Soldiers face shortages of ammunition, vehicles, and support, compounding the impact of attritional losses. Ukraine's strategy exploits these systemic weaknesses, ensuring that operational pressure on Russian forces is both immediate and unsustainable. Ukraine's planned offensives for 2026 are precise, disciplined, and intelligence-driven. The focus is on exploiting weaknesses rather than overcommitting forces. Small, concentrated attacks will target poorly defended positions, supply hubs, and isolated units, allowing Ukraine to regain territory while maintaining strong defensive lines. Each strike is carefully timed, ensuring that Russian forces are unable to regroup or respond effectively. The strategy prioritizes operational tempo over raw numbers, demonstrating that modern warfare rewards foresight, agility, and coordination more than sheer force. The counteroffensives of late 2025 have already served as a proving ground. Ukrainian units conducted a series of successful operations that slowed Russian advances, disrupted supply routes, and forced Moscow to expend significant resources for minimal territorial gain. These actions provided critical data on Russian tactics, command delays, and logistical vulnerabilities, which have been integrated into the planning for 2026. Every engagement in the coming year will benefit from this intelligence, allowing Ukraine to hit harder, faster, and with greater precision than ever before. Technological superiority also plays a decisive role. Middle strike drones, long-range artillery, and integrated intelligence systems allow Ukraine to strike deep behind Russian lines, targeting command centers, supply depots, and critical infrastructure. These operations force Russian units to react defensively, further stretching their already fragile command and control structures. By undermining logistics and morale, Ukraine magnifies the impact of each attack, turning small tactical victories into strategic leverage. The operational philosophy of 2026 is clear: maintain defensive integrity, exploit weaknesses, and strike decisively. Overextension, which crippled earlier campaigns, will be avoided. Ukrainian forces will act in concentrated bursts, achieving localized superiority before consolidating gains. Speed, precision, and adaptability define this approach, ensuring that Russia's overextended, under-resourced forces face a relentless, unpredictable adversary. Each victory builds momentum, erodes enemy morale, and strengthens Ukraine's strategic position. Russia's planned formation of 11 new divisions in 2026 is unlikely to alter this balance. Losses outpace recruitment, and the Kremlin's forces remain fragmented, poorly trained, and poorly equipped for sustained operations. Attempts to meet ambitious territorial deadlines, such as the capture of the Donbass, are doomed to fail against a well-prepared and adaptive opponent. Ukraine's renewed offensives are designed to capitalize on these weaknesses, delivering tactical, operational, and strategic blows simultaneously. In 2026, the war will no longer be measured solely by territory or the number of engagements. Instead, success will hinge on operational initiative, the ability to exploit enemy weaknesses, and the capacity to disrupt command and supply networks. Ukraine's blend of defensive resilience, technological advantage, and disciplined offensive operations sets the stage for a campaign that could decisively reshape the conflict. Russia's losses, economic strain, and declining troop quality will make countering these initiatives increasingly difficult, if not impossible. The war is entering a new chapter, one where Ukraine will dictate the tempo, scope, and intensity of operations. Each move is calculated, each strike deliberate, and every engagement designed to weaken Russian capacity while preserving Ukrainian strength. The coming year will test the Kremlin's ability to respond, revealing whether its forces can sustain the pressures of a battlefield increasingly dominated by timing, precision, and intelligence. For Ukraine, 2026 represents an opportunity to seize the operational initiative, reverse territorial losses, and inflict crippling setbacks on an overstretched and overstressed adversary. The stage is set. The forces are prepared. The outcome is poised to favor those who understand that modern warfare is not won by numbers alone, but by timing, strategy, and the ruthless exploitation of opportunity.